lovely listeners. Welcome back to our cozy little studio filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and tangled dreams. Last night, I tried to parallel park using only my car's horn. Let's just say it didn't end well. Ouch. The car behind me now has a unique horn symphony.
Mira, you're something else. Hello everyone, Leo here. Mira, walking in today was an adventure. The elevator decided to take a detour to the basement, and I swear I saw a family of raccoons throwing a party down there. Whoa. And then, I spilled my coffee not once, but twice. Oops. Guess I needed a caffeine drip this morning.
You always bring the chaos, Leo. But that's why we love you. Anyway, for those tuning in, wondering what kind of mayhem we're unleashing today, get ready. We're continuing our grand tradition of comparing to countries in excruciating detail, from their quirky habits to their national treasures.
That's right. Today, we're putting on our comparative hats and diving deep into the worlds of Canada and the United Kingdom. Think of it as a friendly showdown between maple syrup and afternoon tea. Aha!
We'll be tackling all the burning questions: which country has better healthcare? Which one has friendlier people? And most importantly, where can you find the best Pao Tai?
Speaking of Pao Tai, someone actually messaged us asking if it's acceptable to propose marriage with a Pao Tai ring. I'm not sure, but it definitely shows commitment. Oh, we're here to help you navigate the cultural landscapes and make sense of it all.
And maybe answer some of the wilder questions like, if I move to the UK, will I automatically develop a British accent? Or can I survive a Canadian winter if I'm used to tropical beaches?
Well, about the British accent, a friend of mine tried to learn it by watching only Monty Python. He ended up speaking a mix of Shakespearean English and silly walks.
We know that choosing a new country can be a big deal. Whether you're planning a vacation, considering a job abroad, or just daydreaming about a different life, we're here to help.
We'll tackle the serious stuff like visa requirements, cost of living, and job opportunities. Is it easy to find a flat? Will my bank account survive? These are the questions that keep us up at night.
Grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and prepare for a transatlantic adventure. This podcast, supported by Jetoff AI, is your passport to understanding Canada and the United Kingdom.
Jetoff AI helping you make the big decisions. If you were to build a rocket to the moon, the question of which country to live in becomes very important.
You might be wondering why these two countries? Well, they're both fascinating, both have a lot to offer, and both have some seriously devoted fans. Plus, I've always wanted to compare Canadian politeness to British sarcasm.
And if you're loving what you're hearing, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It's like giving us a virtual high five and saying, keep up the good work.
A little click goes a long way. And who knows? Maybe subscribing will bring you good luck. One day you'll say, that podcast changed my life. Well, and we'll be like, we knew it all along.
So without further ado, let's dive in and see which country reigns supreme in this epic showdown of Canada versus the United Kingdom. Ooh, as they soon you will be asking yourself, which country should I live in? Let's not drag it out any further, let's jump to our first agenda.
Let's dive straight into general safety and crime rates when we stack up Canada and the United Kingdom. I've always thought that if safety was a food, Canada would be a bowl of Pao Tai, comforting and familiar.
And the UK? Maybe a full English breakfast hearty, but you might find a rogue baked bean where you least expect it. Ooh, seriously though, let's get real here. We're not talking about which country is safer for your teddy bear, but for actual humans, right?
So, crime rates. Canada generally boasts lower rates of violent crime compared to the US. But property crime can be a bit of a butt skill. Like, leaving your hockey stick unattended could be a gamble. Oops.
True, and the UK's got its share of petty theft, especially in tourist hotspots. Think pickpockets eyeing up your phone while you're admiring Big Ben. Whoa, violent crime, while lower than some other countries, is still a concern in certain areas. So, no strolling down dark alleys with a crown on your head, folks.
From my understanding, the perception of safety in both countries is quite high, though. Like, you're probably not going to feel like you're in a constant action movie.
Unless you're starring in a low-budget one. But yeah, both Canada and the UK benefit from generally effective policing and legal systems. You mess with the Mountie, you get the Maple Leaf Justice.
Mounties are more for sure these days, aren't they? But point taken. And in the UK, you've got those bobbies. They might not be as intimidating as some other police forces, but they're usually around when you need them. Oh,
True. But let's not forget about Cybergmer, eh? Both countries are facing increasing threats from online scams and fraud. So, if someone emails you claiming to be a Nigerian prince offering you millions, just delete it.
good shout. And while we were on the topic of staying informed, folks can always check out government travel advisories for the latest updates or risks. A little bit of research can go a long way. You can usually find reliable information on sites like Jet Off AI as well.
Absolutely. It's like packing an umbrella, you might not need it, but you'll be glad you have it if it starts pouring. Ah, oh, or in this case, if some dodgy situation arises.
And let's also remember that crime rates can vary greatly depending on the specific city or neighborhood. So, generalizing about an entire country can be misleading. Know what I mean?
Totally. Saying Canada is super safe is like saying all British food is bland. It's just not true.
But seriously, folks should do their research and be aware of their surroundings, no matter where they are. So if you're e-visiting Canada, check out the official Canadian website.
Exactly. A little common sense can go a long way. Don't flash your cash around, be mindful of your belongings, and avoid sketchy areas, especially at night. And remember, if something feels wrong, it probably is.
Speaking of common sense, it applies to social media too. Be careful what you post online, especially when you're on vacation. You don't want to advertise to the world that your house is empty. Yips.
Good point. It's like leaving a neon sign on your front lawn saying, "Rob me." So be smart, be safe, and enjoy your travels, whether you're exploring the Rockies or strolling through London.
And if you're looking for more tips on staying safe while traveling, don't forget to check out resources online like the articles and podcasts on Jet Off AI. You will have more helpful content.
There you go, Mira. Always plugging the sponsors. But seriously, folks, stay informed, stay vigilant, stay safe. And if you see me doing stand-up in your town, come say hi.
Political stability can make or break a country. Let's talk about it. When we compare Canada and United Kingdom, we see two nations that generally enjoy a high degree of political stability, but with their own unique flavors, of course.
Indeed, political stability and social harmony are like the bread and butter of a well-functioning society, aren't they? You can't have one without the other. And both Canada and the UK have got a pretty good handle on it, relatively speaking. But let's not pretend it's all sunshine and rainbows.
In Canada, you've got a multi-party system where power is usually shared, and the transitions are typically smeared. The UK, with its long history of parliamentary democracy, has well-established norms and institutions that help maintain order. However, both countries have faced their share of political turbulence too.
Oh, without a doubt. Canada's had its moments with Quebec's separatism, and the UK's been wrestling with your exit for what feels like an eternity. Remember when everyone was arguing about the Irish backstop? Good times. Not.
True. And in terms of social harmony, both countries are known for being multicultural and relatively tolerant societies. But that doesn't mean they're immune to social divisions or tensions. Think about the challenges of integrating immigrants, or the persistent issues of racism and inequality. Oh.
Right? The UK's seen its share of social unrest, from the Brixton riots back in the day to more recent protests. Canada's also grappling with issues related to Indigenous rights and reconciliation. It's a work in progress for both. And let's not forget that social media often amplifies divisions.
Exactly. It's easy to romanticize these places, but it's important to acknowledge the real challenges they face. Political stability and social harmony are never guaranteed. They require constant effort and vigilance. That's the charm of the comparison for today, I guess.
Well said. And if you're looking for a deeper dive into these topics, don't forget to check out resources like Jet Off AI. They offer some great insights into the social and political landscapes of countries around the world. So, harmony and politics, do they mix? Let's see what else we got.
Let's dive right into economic conditions and cost of living then. Because let's be honest, dreaming of bagpipes and maple syrup is great. But can you actually afford it?
Honey, I shrunk the bank account is a phrase nobody wants to hear. Kenny, I both have phrase nobody wants to hear. Kennedy and the UK both have pretty developed economies, but the daily grind can look different.
Canada's economy is heavily reliant on natural resources. Wow. Think oil, lumber, and maple syrup poo. They're a major exporter, but this also makes them vulnerable to commodity price swings. If food prices tank, so can Alberta's economy.
True. The UK, on the other hand, leans more on finance, services, and manufacturing. It's a more diversified economy, but beer exit threw a wrench in the works, creating uncertainty. I almost feel bad for the economists who have to make predictions these days. Almost.
Let's talk housing, because that's a big one. In Canada, especially cities like Vancouver and Toronto, real estate prices are absolutely bonkers. Well, you could probably buy a small island for the price of a condo there.
Tell me about it. London's not exactly cheap either. Property prices are sky high, and the rental market is insane. You practically need to sell a kidney to afford a decent flat. Ouch, maybe 2 kidneys depending on the neighborhood.
Moving on to groceries. Canada has higher food prices compared to the US, partly because of import costs and supply chain issues. I once paid $7 for a head of cauliflower. SEVNDOLLLARS. I nearly fainted.
The UK's had its fair share of inflation lately, so groceries aren't cheap either. You'll find a decent range of supermarkets, from budget-friendly to fancy schmancy, but expect to pay a premium for imported stuff.
What about healthcare? Canada boasts a universal healthcare system, which is awesome. Generally, you don't pay out of pocket for most medical services. Of course, that means higher taxes.
The UK also has the National Health Service, or NHS, but waiting times can be a pain. And similar to Canada, higher taxes pay for it.
Now, let's get to the fun stuff, entertainment and leisure. Wow, in Canada, going out for dinner, catching a movie, or attending a sports game can be pretty pricey, especially in major cities.
Ditto in the UK, a night out in London can easily drain your wallet, especially if you're hitting up fancy clubs or theaters. A pint of beer can set you back a fortune. My spare change needs a loan.
Wages are a factor too. Canada's minimum wage varies by province, but it's generally higher than in many parts of the US. But remember, so is the cost of living.
The UK's minimum wage, or national living wage, has been increasing in recent years, but whether it keeps pace with inflation is another question. It's like trying to catch a greased pig.
One other thing to consider: taxes. Canada's income tax rates are progressive, so the more you earn, the more you pay. But it also funds social programs like healthcare and education.
UK has a similar system. Higher earners pay more income tax. And then there's council tax, which goes towards local services. Basically, the government always finds a way to get its share.
So is considering moving. What's the bottom line? Canada offers a good quality of life, especially in terms of safety and access to nature. But be prepared for high housing costs and taxes.
The UK has its advantages to a vibrant culture, a central location for exploring Europe, and a diverse job market. But be ready for high living costs, especially in London, and the beer exit uncertainties.
It depends on your priorities and financial situation. Wow. Do you value wide open spaces and universal healthcare? Or are you drawn to a bustling urban scene in a more diverse economy?
As usual, it boils down to individual circumstances. Oh, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. Should I move to Canada or the UK? Well, that's up to you. And your bank account?
Couldn't have said it better myself. Maybe we should start at which country is right for you. Compatibility test on Jet Off AI. We could become the ultimate matchmakers for global citizens.
Now, there's an idea. Until then, I guess people will just have to listen to our podcasts and do their own research. Seriously, check out Jet Off AI to help you make the best decision.
Let's dive right in. When it comes to crashing for the night, or settling in for a while, Canada and the UK offer some seriously different vibes. It's like deciding between maple syrup and clotted cream, both are delicious, but for totally different moods.
Maple syrup versus clotted cream. I think the syrup will win it. But you're right. Accommodation is a big deal. No one wants to end up in a place that's basically a fancy cardboard box, right? Speaking of cardboard, I once stayed in a hostel that was so basic, I'm pretty sure the furniture was just assembled from flattened Amazon packages.
Let's start with Canada. Think wide open spaces, right? That translates to everything from cozy log cabins in the Rockies to ultra-modern condos in downtown Toronto. Well, you can find those classic Canadian bed and breakfasts with, like, 1,000,000 quilts and enough pancakes to fuel a hockey team for a week.
1,000,000 quilts sounds suffocating. But Canada definitely nails the rustic charm. In the UK, you're looking at a totally different story. Think ancient castles you can if you have the bank account of a minor royal, of course. Oh, then there are the charming countryside cottages with thatched roofs and wonky walls. I'm pretty sure some of those walls have been leading since the Magna Carta was signed.
And don't forget the city hotels. London's got everything from swanky five-star places with views of Buckingham Palace to quirky boutique hotels hidden down cobblestone streets. In smaller cities, you can find adorable guest houses with names like the Thistle Biscuit or the Badger's Nap. I swear, those names get cuter every year.
The Badger's Nap. That sounds less like a guest house and more like a wildlife documentary. But yeah, the UK is swimming in history, which means your accommodation might come with a ghost story or two. I bet you if you checked it off AI, you might find a haunted house. Be careful though.
What about budget travelers? Are we talking hostels or what?
Both countries have hostels, but they're not created equal. In Canada, hostels are often super clean and modern with spacious dorms and maybe even a yoga studio. In the UK, some hostels are like stepping back in time. You might find yourself in a centuries-old building with creaky floors and characterful plumbing.
Characterful plumbing. Code for hope you like cold showers. Got it. What about Airbnbs? Are they a good bet in both places?
Airbnbs are huge in both countries, but again, different vibes. In Canada, you're looking at sleek apartments in Vancouver or cozy lakeside cabins in cottage country. Wow! In the UK, you might find yourself in a converted Victorian terrace house or a quirky flat above a pub. Just be prepared for stairs. So many stairs.
It's like a workout just getting to your room. So, in terms of quality, what's the overall picture?
Canada is generally known for its high standards. Things are usually clean, well-maintained, and relatively modern. You pay for it, though. The UK can be a bit more hit or miss. You can find amazing places with tons of charm and history, but you might also encounter places that are, shall we say, tired around the edges.
Tired around the edges is the perfect way to put it. So, what's the bottom line for our listeners?
If you're after reliability, modern comforts, and you don't mind paying a bit more, Canada is a solid bet. Oh, if you crave history, quirky charm, and you're willing to gamble a bit on the quality, the UK might be more your style. And hey, even if you end up in a slightly dodgy place, at least you have a good story to tell. Buzz, you can write enough in a story to tell.
It all comes down to your priorities and your budget. Just remember to read the reviews carefully, folks. You don't want to end up sharing your room with a badger, no matter how cute its nap sounds. If you like it, you can like it. Alright, let's dive straight into the deep and visa immigration. It's basically the adult version of red light, green light, except the stakes are way higher than just being it.
More like red tape green light, Mira. Seriously though, visa and immigration, it's the bouncer at the club of countries. Some get waved right in others. Well, not so much.
Let's kick things off with Canada. Getting a visa for Canada can sometimes feel like trying to understand hockey rules, complicated and involving a lot of ice. But generally, for a short visit, many nationalities can apply for an ETA, electronic travel authorization, which is pretty straightforward. As long as you don't have a criminal record or plans to start a beaver farm without a permit.
A beaver farm without a permit. Now there's a sitcom waiting to happen. As for the UK, it's a mixed bag. Short tourist visits are usually manageable depending on your passport. But if you're thinking of sticking around longer or working, brace yourself, it's like navigating the London Underground garage hour.
It's like they took inspiration from a Jane Austen novel full of propriety, long waits, and the occasional dramatic reveal. Wow. Getting a work visa can be a bit of a saga involving proving you're essential, highly skilled, and won't steal any jobs from the locals unless you're a Premier League footballer.
True, it's not always a walk in Hyde Park. The UK system has tiers and points-based assessments. You need to prove you've got the skills, the qualifications, and the financial stability. It's like a dating app, but instead of swiping right, you're submitting documents.
If you're planning to study in Canada, you'll need a study permit. Make sure your designated learning institution is actually designated, or you might end up with a very expensive maple syrup appreciation course that nobody recognizes. Well,
And to study in the UK, you'll need a tier for visa now called a student visa. Proof of acceptance, proof of funds, and a promise you're actually going to study and not just hang out in pubs all day. They're watching. Always watching.
now, for those dreaming of becoming full-fledged Kane-X permanent residency is the golden ticket. Canada uses a points-based system called Express Entry, where factors like age, education, work experience, and language skills are all thrown into the mix. It's basically The Bachelor, but for immigrants. Will you get the Rosa? The invitation to apply? Oh,
Express Entry, the Hunger Games of immigration. And for the UK, there's a points-based system for skilled workers, but also routes for family visas, investment visas, and other specialized categories. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure book, but with higher stakes.
one thing to keep in mind, both countries value skilled workers. If you're a doctor, engineer, or possess a unique talent, you're more likely to get a fast pass. If you're a professional mine, well, good luck expressing that on the application form.
Unless you can mine your entire work history. Now that's talent. Another consideration is the processing times. Both countries can be a bit slow, so patience is key. It's like waiting for your online order to arrive, but you can't track it and it might take months.
So, what's the bottom line? Canada's generally seen as more open and welcoming to immigrants, with a clear path to permanent residency. The UK can be tougher, especially with BR exit impacting immigration policies, but it's still a highly desirable destination for many.
Exactly. If you're armed with the right documents, a strong application, and you can navigate the visa and immigration maze of either country. Just remember to unstart that beaver farm without a permit. And maybe brush up on your mind skills just in case.
And always read the fine print. Seriously, the fine print can change your whole life. It's just like in my favorite series, Suits. Well, folks, that's a wrap on visa and immigration for Canada and the UK. Stay tuned for our next adventure. Let's dive right into access to and quality of health services, shall we? It's kind of like comparing maple syrup to afternoon tea, both comforting, but in totally different ways.
True, Mira. Healthcare systems are like national dishes. Everyone has their own recipe, and they all think theirs is the best. But let's see which one actually tastes better, shall we?
First up, Canada with its universal healthcare system. Wow. Basically, if you're a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, you're covered for most medically necessary services. Oh, it's like having a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's, but instead of chocolate, it's healthcare.
Right, but that golden ticket doesn't guarantee you immediate service. Canada's system is known for long wait times for specialist appointments and certain procedures. You might be waiting longer than it takes to brew a perfect cup of afternoon tea.
Patience is a virtue. Leo. But you're right, wait times can be a real drag. It's like waiting for winter to end. It eventually does, but it feels like forever.
Meanwhile, across the pond in the UK, they have the National Health Service, or NHS. Ooh, it's also a universal healthcare system, free at the point of service. So no upfront costs, which is nice.
Sounds amazing. But is it really that simple? What's the catch, Leo?
Well, the NHS also faces its share of challenges, including funding constraints and staffing shortages. It's like trying to run a marathon on a cup of lukewarm tea. You might make it, but it's gonna be tough.
So both countries have universal health care, But both also have their fair share of problems. It's like two sides of the same coin. One side says access, the other says wait times.
Exactly. In quality, that's another can of worms. Some studies show that Canada has higher cancer survival rates, but the UK might have better access to mental health services.
Mental health services, you say? Wow, that's super important. It's like having a friendly chat with a moose. Therapeutic in a weird Canadian way.
Speaking of friendly, the UK's healthcare professionals are known for their bedside manner. They might offer you a cup of tea while discussing your ailments.
Sounds lovely. But what if you need something more than just a comforting chat?
That's where things get tricky. Both systems have their strengths and weaknesses. It really boils down to what you value most.
So, if you like universal access and don't mind waiting, Canada or the UK might be for you. But if you want faster service, you might need to look at private options.
True, both countries have private healthcare options, but they're not as widely used as in some other countries. It's like adding a splash of maple syrup to your afternoon tea, an interesting twist, but not for everyone.
There's no clear winner when it comes to access to and quality of health services in Canada versus the UK. It's all about trade-off.
Yeah, it depends on your priorities, your health needs, and your tolerance for waiting. And maybe your preference for maple syrup versus afternoon tea. If you liked it, you also do not forget to check Jet Off AI.
Check our Jet Off AI site for more detailed data. Also, if you liked it, you can like it. Let's dive right into comparing the transportation infrastructure and convenience in Canada and the United Kingdom. Canada, being geographically massive, faces some unique challenges. I always joke that getting from one end of Canada to the other is like visiting 5 different countries.
Yeah, it's like, hey, wanna grab coffee? Just a quick 5-hour flight away. But seriously, the UK, being much smaller, has a naturally denser, more connected infrastructure. Imagine riding a railway across the Canadian Rockies compared to the rolling hills of England.
Canada relies heavily on air travel and long-distance trucking due to its vastness. You know, sometimes I think the Canadian national bird should be a Boeing 747 Foo. But let's not forget about their extensive highway system, like the Trans-Canada Highway.
Ah, the Trans-Canada Highway road trip classic. But let's be real, driving across it can feel like an eternity. In the UK, you've got a great network of motorways and day roads, making it pretty easy to get around by car. It's almost like they designed it for tiny cars and rounded toes.
True. Now, let's talk about public transportation. Canada's major cities have decent systems like the Toronto subway or Vancouver's SkyTrain. Wow. But outside those urban hubs, public transport options become pretty limited. It's like, welcome to rural Canada, where your choices are a school bus or your own defeat.
Meanwhile, the UK boasts a comprehensive rail network and bus services, especially in England. Well, the London Underground or the Tube is iconic, even if it does smell faintly of old sandwiches. And let's not forget the extensive train services connecting cities and towns. It's so good, you can almost forgive them for the delays. Almost.
I hear you. Also, Canada's investing in high-speed rail, but it's a long-term project. Maybe by the time it's done, we'll all be using teleportation anyway. Ooh!
Teleportation? Now you're talking. In the meantime, the UK is always upgrading its rail infrastructure, although it sometimes feels like they're just shuffling the deck chairs on the Titan. I speed to anyone.
Point taken. What about cycling? Canada's making strides in urban cycling infrastructure, with bike lanes popping up in cities. But let's be honest. Cycling in a Canadian winter takes dedication. It's like, yeah, I'm hardcore, I cycle through snowstorms. Please send help. Ouch.
The UK has a pretty strong cycling culture, especially in cities like Cambridge and Oxford. They even have dedicated cycle routes in the National Cycle Network. Although, navigating those roundabouts on a bike requires nerves of steel.
Good point. Accessibility is also a key factor. Canadian cities are working to improve accessibility on public transport, but there's still progress to be made. Access to services can vary from region to region to region.
The UK also has legislation in place to improve accessibility. But like anywhere, implementation can be patchy. And let's not even get started on trying to navigate historic buildings in a wheelchair. Whoa, it's like an obstacle course designed by someone who's never used a ramp in their life.
Lastly, the convenience factor. Canada is all about personal vehicles, cars, trucks, SUVs. The sheer distances often make it the most practical choice. In some provinces, I think it's considered rude not to own a pickup truck. Oops.
In the UK, the focus is more on efficient public transport and design. Wow, the idea is to make it easy to get around without needing a car, especially in cities. Although, good luck finding a parking space, if you do decide to drive.
So, in a nutshell, Canada is about vastness and individual transport, while the UK is about density and public transport efficiency. But in both, you can find everything you need if you have a solid plan.
Absolutely. It's like choosing between a sprawling ranch and a cozy cottage. Both have their charms, just depends what you're after. Ah, by the way, have you seen Get Off AIS guide on navigating transport in different countries? Super helpful for planning your next adventure. It can help you decide whether you want to drop to draw across Canada or take trains through England.
Yeah, check out Jet Off AI for the best tips on travel. If you like this, you can press the like button. Wow. Alright, let's tackle the linguistic landscape. You know, how easily can you order a decent poutine in Montreal versus a proper cuppa in London? In Canada, especially outside Quebec, English is pretty dominant. You'll find French speakers, sure, but most folks are bilingual to some degree. Navigating daily life is usually a breeze for anglophones.
Yeah, but don't get complacent. Get into rural Quebec, and suddenly it's like you've walked into a French film from the 60 seconds. Suddenly, my high school French is like bonjour. Bonjour, baguette. Where is bathroom? Oops. Meanwhile, in the UK, you'd think it's all English muffins and Shakespeare, but try deciphering a Glaswegian accent after a few pints. It sounds like they're gargling quoting poetry at the same time.
True. And let's not forget the regional dialects. Oh, someone from Newfoundland trying to explain something can sound like a pirate speaking in code. The wind be blowing something fierce. And in the UK, you've got Cockney rhyming slang where apples and pears mean stairs. It's like they're trying to make communication as difficult as possible just for kicks.
It's a conspiracy, I tell you. They're testing tourists to see if they're worthy. If you can understand a Geordie explaining how to get to Hadrian's Wall, you've earned your British citizenship. Whoa. Otherwise, you're stuck with subtitles. Otherwise, you're stuck with subtitles.
The thing is, both countries are pretty accommodating overall. Wow, you'll find English speakers everywhere, even if you sometimes need to ask them to say that again, but slower this time. It's more about being prepared for a bit of linguistic adventure than facing an actual barrier. Oh, just stack a phrasebook, a good sense of humor, and maybe a translator app that can handle rhyming slang. And you'll be golden. Let's jump right in, shall we? Cultural diversity and tolerance. It's like asking if poutine and fish and chips can share a plate, can they?
Depends. Can I put gravy on my fish and chips? Oh, then maybe. Cultural diversity, it's more than just food, though. It's about whether you can wear a Mountie hat and Buckingham Palace without getting arrested.
Good point. But seriously, Canada likes to pride itself on being a mosaic. It's all about celebrating everyone's differences like a talent show where everyone wins. Ooh.
The UK is a bit more of a melting pot, right? Centuries of history with everyone from Romans to Vikings leaving their mark in their DNA. It's less we're all unique snowflakes and more we're all simmering in the same stew. Ah,
You've got official multiculturalism, which is a fancy way of saying we encourage you to keep your traditions alive. But does that always translate to actual tolerance?
well, the UK's tolerance has been tested, hasn't it? BR exit stirred up some stuff. Suddenly, everyone was an expert on immigration policy.
Let's not open that can of worms. How about we just say both countries have their challenges? Like, can you find decent bagels outside of Montreal, or a decent cup of tea outside of Yorkshire?
See, that's the problem with tolerance. Everyone has their limits. But on a serious note, the UK has a long history of immigration which brings both richness and tension. It's like a complicated love-hate relationship with the rest of the world.
Canada's got the indigenous population, and let's be honest, the relationship hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows. There's reconciliation work to be done, and it's not just about saying sorry.
Absolutely. And both countries grapple with racism, Islamophobia, and all sorts of prejudices. It's like we're all on a tolerance learning curve, and some people are still in kindergarten.
What's the verdict? Are we all just pretending to be tolerant while secretly judging each other's accents and fashion choices?
Probably. But it's a noble pretense, isn't it? At least we're trying to be nice. It's like saying, I may not understand your bagpipes, but I respect your right to play them.
True. So maybe cultural diversity and tolerance is just a work in progress. Like trying to build a snowman in July. It's messy, but if you put enough effort in, you might get something beautiful in the end.
Or at least a good laugh. And if you're not laughing, you're probably not paying attention. Don't forget to check out Jen Off AI for more comparative insights. And hey, if you're enjoying this podcast, hit that like button.
Let's dive into the world of education and language learning in Canada and the United Kingdom. Seems like a good place to start.
Indeed. Two countries with impressive reputations, but which one offers the better lawn packs for your brain? Or at least, less chance of your brain exploding from boredom.
Well, Canada boasts a fantastic public education system. Elementary and high school are generally top-notch, setting a strong foundation. Plus, they have some world-class universities like the University of Toronto McGill. And UBC? Wow!
True, but let's not forget the UK's legacy. We're talking Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial College London, institutions steeped in history and known for cutting-edge research. Bull, it's like comparing a shiny new spaceship to a venerable old castle. Both get you somewhere interesting.
But Canada's often seen as more accessible for international students, with clearer pathways to permanent residency after graduation. And tuition fees, while not cheap, are generally lower than in the UK.
That's the point. The UK can be brutally expensive, especially for overseas students. But think of the connections you'll make. Networking with future world leaders while punting on the River Cam. Aha! Or maybe just dodging tourists.
Speaking of dodging, let's talk language schools. Canada's perfect for honing your English with diverse programs and immersion opportunities. Plus, you get to experience the great outdoors while you study. Maybe spot a moose while conjugating verbs.
True, Canada's got the fresher advantage. But the UK is the birthplace of the English language. You're literally walking in the footsteps of Shakespeare. Wow! Just try not to pick up too many archaic phrases.
I guess it's like, do you want to learn English in a pristine natural setting? Or in a place where history practically uses from the cobblestones?
Exactly. And don't forget the accents. Canadian English is pretty neutral, whereas the UK offers a dizzying array from posh RP to Cockney rhyming slang.
True. Though maybe avoid Cockney if you want to be understood outside of East London. I tried ordering a ham shank the other day, and the waiter looked at me like I had to heads. Oops.
It's all part of the cultural experience. So, if your goal is pure, unadulterated English immersion, the UK's hard to beat. But if you want a more affordable option with clear immigration pathways, Canada might be the better bet.
It really comes down to your priorities and your budget. Do you want to learn English alongside a breathtaking mountain vista, or in a historic pub discussing Dickens? Oh, both offer unique experiences.
Or maybe, just maybe, you can find a pub with a breathtaking mountain vista. Now that's what I call the best of both worlds.
Laughing your incorrigible Leo. Always finding the comedic angle. But you're right, ultimately. It depends on what you're looking for in your educational journey.
Indeed, and whether you prefer your English with a side of maple syrup or a spot of tea. It's all about finding the flavor that suits you best. Also, if you're not sure about where to start, you can check Jet Off AI out.
Okay. Let's dive into the wild world of weather, comparing Canada and the United Kingdom. I always say, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. But in these countries, it might be more like, wait 5 months.
Right. It's like both countries are competing for the most unpredictable weather award. In Canada, you could be basking in sunshine 1 minute and building a snowman the next. Dude, it's Mother Nature's mood swing on full display. Reminds me of my ex-Goodwin.
Well, in Canada, you've got everything from rainforests to Arctic tundra. Wow, British Columbia is all mild and wet. The prairies are super dry, and the north is basically winter's personal playground. You might need a wardrobe for every province.
Totally. And then there's the UK. People always talk about the rain, but it's more like a light drizzle mixed with existential dread. The weather is like a passive-aggressive housemate.
So, the UK is an island nation. So it has a temperate climate. It's never super hot or super cold, but it's often cloudy and damp. I find the weather in London so depressing that I need to change the country.
True, and the seasons? Well, spring is just a slightly less gloomy version of winter. Summer is a brief tease, autumn is beautiful but melancholic, and winter is just long.
So if you're planning a trip, pack layers. Wow, in Canada, you might experience all 4 seasons in a single day, and in the UK, you'll definitely need an umbrella. I joke you need a boat instead of an umbrella in London.
Exactly. And don't trust the weather forecast. Whoa. In both countries, it's more of a suggestion than a prediction. Trust your gut and always be prepared for anything.
My travel kit is full of surprises. You never know when you're going to need that stuff. If you're looking for stable and predictable weather, these countries are not for you. No.
Totally. But hey, at least it gives you something to talk about with strangers. Small talk about the weather is practically a national sport. I love to talk about all this to my neighbor in the coffee shop.
So, Canada and the UK both offer a unique weather experience. It's unpredictable, sometimes harsh, but always interesting. If you like the weather, please give it a like to our YouTube channel, or you can read the articles about this comparison in Jet Off AI. Right, food, culture, and nutritional alternatives. But let's kick this off. It's all about how time versus, I don't know, a full English breakfast, right? Oh, it's like comparing comfort food with slightly different comfort food.
Powdine versus a full English. Dude, that's carbs versus more carbs. Let's be real, it's a dietary standoff of epic proportions. I'm already picturing the health gurus throwing their hands up in despair.
Oh, but think about it, Canada's got this whole multicultural vibe going on, right? So their food scene is like super diverse. You can find anything from sushi to tacos to pho. It's like a culinary United Nations.
True, but when people think Canada, they think maple syrup and back bacon. It's like they're stuck in a perpetual lumberjack brick and Marshall. I'm not complaining, mind you.
Well, the UK's got that too. Fish and chips, Sunday roast, afternoon tea. It's all about tradition, innit? But they've also got a pretty diverse food scene in London and other big cities. You can find amazing Indian food, for example.
The old curry is our national dish argument. Classic British self-deprecation. But yeah, London's a culinary melting pot for sure. You can get anything your heart desires, as long as you're willing to pay for it.
Let's talk about nutritional alternatives then. Canada got this health-conscious thing going on, especially on the West Coast. Lots of vegan and gluten-free options. Whoa. It's all about kale smoothies and organic quinoa bowls.
Quinoa bowls, the official food of guilt-ridden millennials. But seriously, Canada's got some amazing natural resources. They're practically swimming in fresh produce. It would be a great topic to discuss at Jet Off AI too.
The UK's catching up though. You can find health food stores and vegan cafes all over the place. Plus, there's a growing interest in local and sustainable food. Oh.
Yeah, but they're still obsessed with their Christian biscuits. It's like they can't resist the siren call of processed snacks. I'm not judging though. I love a good biscuit myself.
What about traditional foods that are actually healthy? Like, Canada's got wild salmon and maple syrup. Maple syrup is a great resource for a podcast, for example. Ah, surely that's got some nutritional value, right?
Well, wild salmon is definitely good for you. Ooh, maple syrup is basically just sugar though. Let's not kid ourselves. It's delicious sugar, but sugar nonetheless.
Okay. But the UK's got things like porridge and Brussels sprouts. They are not delicious, but they are healthy. There are some podcasts and articles on the subject. Aha! Gotta give them credit for that.
Brussels sprouts, the vegetable that everyone loves to hate. But yeah, porridge is a pretty solid breakfast choice. Keeps you going for hours. And let's not forget about all the amazing seafood they have around the coast.
What's the verdict? Which country wins the food culture and nutritional alternative showdown?
Dude, it's a tie. Both countries have their strengths and weaknesses. It all comes down to personal preference. Are you in the mood for Pautine and maple syrup or fish and chips in the full English? If you like this podcast, you can like it.
I think you are very correct. That's exactly what the audience would think too. Okay? Into history books and explore the arts because it's time to compare Canada and the United Kingdom, right, Leo?
All right, Mira. Sounds like a plan. Dude, diving into history books sounds like you're about to swim in ink, but okay. Let's do it. Are we talking castles versus hockey rinks?
Not quite, but close. Let's start with the UK. It is packed with ancient castles, royal history, and world-renowned museums. Think Buckingham Palace, the Tower of London, and the British Museum.
True, the UK is like a walking history book. Every corner has some king, queen, or battle. You can almost hear the knights clanking their armor. Whoa, I bet there are some seriously funny ghost stories hiding in those old castles.
Exactly, the UK's history is epic, but Canada has its own charm and is not just about hockey. Though younger, Canada's Indigenous history and its blend of British and French colonial past create a rich and unique story. Think about the historic sites in Quebec City or the Indigenous art of the Northwest Coast. Ooh.
Good point. Canada's history is definitely more than just beavers and maple syrup. The Indigenous cultures bring a whole different vibe. But let's be real, can those historical sites compete with the sheer drama of British royalty? Wow.
I think so. Canadian Indigenous art is incredibly powerful, and Quebec City offers a taste of old Europe in North America, so it's quite impressive. It's like two different types of historical richness, each unique in its own way. Also, let's not forget how Canada has invested in preserving its unique story for future generations. You can even explore some of these options on Jet Off AI.
Oh, you slipped in that Jet Off AI promotion. Clever Mira. Anyway, so, touching upon the cultural side, the UK boasts Shakespeare, the Beatles, and countless iconic artists. It's like their cultural exports have taken over the world.
Yes, I know what you mean. Canada is definitely carving its own path with artists like the Group of Seven, who captured the Canadian landscape in a unique way, and musicians like Joni Mitchell, who have influenced generations.
Fair enough. Canada's music scene is pretty cool, and those Group of Seven paintings are awesome. But can they match the global impact of British pop culture? I mean, everyone knows the Beatles, but how many people outside Canada know the Group of Seven?
Well, that's where appreciation comes in, right? Canada's scene may be a bit more niche, but it's incredibly important for defining Canada's cultural identity. Plus, the UK has given us Harry Potter, and Canada gave us Ryan Reynolds.
Touche Mira is pure gold. So, it's all about variety. The UK has centuries of artistic tradition and global influence, while Canada has a unique blend of indigenous and colonial art with a dash of Hollywood charm.
Leo, so whether you're into ancient castles or indigenous art, Both the UK and Canada has so much to offer. It really just depends on what kind of history and culture you're craving. And as maple syrup, happy and apologizing for everything even when it's not your fault. In the UK, bell tea, queuing, and a stiff upper lip for every occasion. Let's dive into the natural beauty, shall we? Because honestly, folks, that's what is to shine.
Hold on, Mira. I'm sensing some prejudice. Apologizing for everything? Stiff upper lip? That's just lazy stereotyping? Oh, besides, have you tried queuing in London during rush hour? It's an extreme sport, and I'm pretty sure Canadians would apologize while shoving you out of the way to get on the tube. But yes, let's talk landscapes, because Canada and the UK both have killer scenery.
Alright, Mr. Observational Comedian, settle down. I know a good stereotype when I see one. Whoa, but fine. Let's start with Canada. Imagine the Rocky Mountains, these massive snow-capped peaks that just scream adventure. You can hike, ski, snowboard, or just stand there and take ridiculously gorgeous photos for Instagram.
True. The Rockies are stunning. Wow, but let's not forget Canada's lakes. Lake Louise, Lake Moraine, they look like someone spilled a bucket of turquoise paint across the landscape. And you can canoe on them. Though, fair warning, you might encounter moose. Those things are big. Suddenly apologizing seems like a very reasonable course of action. Ouch.
Moose are just oversized, slightly grumpy squirrels, Leo. There. Now, if you're not into mountains or lakes, Canada also has forests. Like, a lot of forests. The Great Bear Rhine Forest in British Columbia is one of the largest temperate forests left in the world. Think towering trees, misty landscapes, and the chance to spot a commode bear, rare white black bear.
White black bear. That's just confusing. Kind of like Canada's attempt at being a monarchy. But alright, rainforests are cool. But let's not forget the Canadian Arctic. Vast, frozen landscapes. The northern lights dancing across the sky. It's like another planet. Just make sure you pack a really warm coat.
Fair point. The Canadian Arctic is pretty epic. But let's cross the pond to the UK, shall we? Now, the UK might not have the sheer scale of Canada, but it makes up for it in charm and history.
Charm and history? That's code for small and old, isn't it? You say? But you're right. The UK has some lovely spots. The Scottish Highlands are dramatic, with rugged mountains, deep lochs, and castles perched on every other hilltop. It's like stepping into a movie set. A movie set where it's probably raining.
Rain is just liquid sunshine, Leo. And the Lake District in England is gorgeous, with rolling hills, serene lakes, and quaint villages. Beatrix Potter drew inspiration from there, so you know it's cute. Plus, you know it's cute. Plus, you can go for a hike and then reward yourself with a proper afternoon tea.
Afternoon tea is basically an excuse to eat tiny sandwiches and cakes. I'm not complaining, but let's be honest. But the UK also has stunning coastlines. Cornwall, for example, has dramatic cliffs, sandy beaches, and turquoise waters. It's like a little slice of the Mediterranean in the middle of the Atlantic.
Cornwall is lovely. Wow. But let's not forget Northern Ireland. The Giant's Causeway, with its bizarre hexagonal basalt columns, is just otherworldly. Legend has it that it was built by a giant, which, let's face it, is way cooler than just saying volcanic activity.
So, giants or volcanoes. Both good options. But back to coast, the white cliffs of Dover are beautiful. On a clear day, you can see France almost. Wow, it's like a geographic staring contest. I wonder who gets bored first.
So cool. So majestic. Wow. I imagine that for all of us who love traveling in natural beauty, they would be wonderful.
They really would. If you who are listening to us, you like natural ones, or you are curious about geographical formations and traveling is your thing, you should definitely see them, as it is written in many articles related to this, and published on YouTube.
In short, Canada offers vast, epic landscapes that will take your breath away. The UK offers charming, historic landscapes that will make you feel like you've stepped into a postcard. Both are amazing in their own way. It just depends what you're looking for.
So if you want to feel small and insignificant, go to Canada. If you want to feel cultured and sophisticated, go to the UK. Or just go to both. You can find the right place for you.
I can just say this: both countries promise many things to their visitors, from natural beauty to historical texture. You can also watch this on YouTube. Dear listeners,
And as always, huge thanks to Jet Off AI for helping us bring this podcast to you. Wow, we'll be back soon with more comparisons, witty banter, and questionable stereotypes.
into sports, activities, and adventures, shall we? I always say, if life gives you lemons, throw them at a friend during a water sports competition. It builds character, or at least a good story for the podcast.
Indeed, when it comes to Canada, the sheer vastness opens up a playground for every kind of adventurer. From the snowy peaks of Whistler to the roaring rapids of the Ottawa River, it's like Mother Nature designed a theme park for adrenaline junkies. Think of it as nature's extreme sports arena. You can see our Jet Off AI site for new travel trends and suggestions.
Oh, Canada has snow sports galore, right? Skiing, snowboarding, ice climbing, wow. It's like they have winter sports. From the Rockies to Quebec, there's something for every skill level.
Absolutely. But it's not just about winter. In the summer, the hiking and mountain biking trails are legendary. The Canadian Rockies offer some of the most breathtaking views in the world, which also makes the risk of falling a little less scary. Just kidding.
Speaking of water, Canada's coastline is insane. Kayaking, whale watching, surfing. Iaking, whale watching, surfing now are totally tubular. Well, I always think I can't even stand up straight on dry land. How am I going to surf?
And let's not forget the wildlife. Canada's prime for wildlife enthusiasts. You could see polar bears, grizzly bears, whales, and bald eagles. It's like a real-life nature documentary, but without the soothing narration. Just remember to bring bear spray.
Ouch, sounds like the ultimate nature buffet. But what about the United Kingdom? People usually think about tea and crumpets, not extreme sports.
True. The UK might not have the same wilderness scale as Canada, but it packs a punch with its own unique offerings. Think rugged coastlines, rolling hills, and historic trails. It is a different appeal to adventurers. It's like the classy, refined cousin of Canada's wild child persona.
What about hiking in the UK? The Lake District in Scottish Highlands is stunning. I heard the views are so green and peaceful. It's like walking into a painting. Wow.
Exactly. The UK's trails are steeped in history and folklore. You can hike along Hadrian's Wall, imagining Roman soldiers marching alongside you. Just watch out for sheep and rogue bagpipers. And for more insights, don't forget to check out related articles and podcasts. You might stumble upon hidden gems you never knew existed.
What about water sports in the UK? I'm picturing chilly waters and determined Brits braving the waves. Are there some fabled waves somewhere?
Cornwall is a surfing hotspot. You can catch some pretty decent waves. The coast also offers excellent sailing, kayaking, and coast-steering. For those who prefer calmer waters, the canals and rivers are great for paddle boarding and narrow boating. Also, check related podcasts and articles for more information.
Paddle boarding on a canal sounds picturesque, but I think I'd end up falling in. I always say, grace and water are not my friends.
Oh, in the UK, it would not be as bad. And let's not forget climbing and caving. The Peak District in Wales offer climbing routes for all skill levels. You can go potholing in the Mendip Hills. Aha! It is like exploring the Earth's veins.
So, if you are looking for outdoor thrills, you're really in luck. Canada serves up epic wilderness. The UK serves up more refined, historical adventures. Whichever you pick depends on your style. Also, if you like this podcast, you can like it.
Spot on. I would say if you are into epic landscapes and wildlife encounters. You might say to Mira, I'll see you in Canada. If you prefer historical trails and cozy pubs, the UK may be calling your name.
And if you're still undecided, why not flip a coin? Heads for Canada, Tails for the UK. If the coin lands on its edge, go to Jeddah Fay. Alright, let's dive into the nightlife and entertainment scenes Canada versus the UK. It's like comparing maple syrup with afternoon tea, right?
More like comparing politeness with sarcasm. But yeah, let's do it. I'm bracing myself for discussions of pubs versus hockey games.
Think sprawling landscapes, right? So, their nightlife varies wildly. In cities like Toronto or Montreal, you got everything from swanky clubs to cozy pubs with live music. Ooh.
Yeah, and don't forget the sports bars. Nothing says Canadian night out like watching hockey while downing a Molson Canadian. Though, to be fair, that's more of an evening thing. Well, by 9 p.m., half the bar's already headed home.
True. But then you have Vancouver, it's got this cool indie music scene and late nights. It's a bit more bohemian.
Vancouver-esque definitely trying to be cool. The problem is, everything closes early. Last call feels like it should be earlier than it actually is.
Ouch. Yeah. Oh, let's move on to the UK. Think history, tradition, and a whole lot of pubs. London's nightlife is legendary, right?
Legendary and expensive. But yeah, London's got everything West End shows, world-class clubs, and enough pubs to drown a small country.
You've got Manchester's music scene, Edinburgh's festival vibes, and even Cardiff has its charm. It is more exciting and adventurous to discover new places. Wow.
True. Plus, the UK has a different attitude toward drinking. It's less about getting hammered and more about socializing. Or at least, trying to socialize over the deafening noise in the pub.
Don't forget the theatres. London's West End is basically Broadway's classy cousin. Musicals, plays, comedy, something for everyone. Wow.
True. The tickets cost more than a small car. Still, if you're into that kind of thing, it's a must-see. Just be prepared to sell a kidney to afford it.
Okay. So how do they compare overall? Canada's nightlife is a bit more spread out and tends to revolve around sports and live music. The UK is denser, more historical, and a bit more sophisticated. Ooh.
Sophisticated and twice as expensive. But yeah, the UK has a wider range of options, especially if you include theater and historical landmarks. It's like choosing between a cozy cabin in the woods and a sprawling castle.
Also, Canada's more diverse. Canada is quite advanced in technology. You can find very useful information from sites like Jeddah Fay. I am sure you can find the nightlife in detail here. Whoa.
Well, whatever you say, but from an outside perspective, the UK has the edge. It's a bit like if Canada said, "We've got hockey." And the UK replied, "We've got the entire history of human civilization plus decent beer."
Dude, that's so unfair. Canada has amazing craft breweries. Plus, have you ever been to a Canadian comedy club? Some of the funniest people in the world come from Canada. Whoa.
Fair enough. But the UK is a bit like a comedy show. It's almost stand-up material. Just look at your exit joke that keeps on giving.
But Canada has some politeness. That counts for something, right?
Politeness is great, but try being polite when you can't hear anything over the noise in a London pub. You end up just smiling and nodding and hoping you don't accidentally agree to something ridiculous.
Okay. Point taken. It's really about what you're looking for. Canada is more laid back and outdoorsy, while the UK is more intense and historically rich. Both countries also have contents that can be watched on YouTube. We hope that you can find the videos you want by liking them.
Exactly. If you want to wear a flannel shirt, drink beer, and watch hockey, go to Canada. If you want to wear a fancy suit, drink gin and tonic, and pretend to understand Shakespeare, go to the UK.
And if you like to laugh and don't want to make choices, then subscribe to our podcast.
Yeah, we're basically the Switzerland of nightlife comparisons. Neutral, objective, and slightly sarcastic.
My friend. Semi-friendly. Let's go for where can I unleash my tiny humans without causing a national incident, right? Let's dive into Canada, UK. First up, Canada, land of maple syrup and ridiculously polite people.
Yeah, Canada where even the squirrels apologize for stealing your picnic. But seriously, it's pretty great for kids. You've got national parks bigger than some European countries, and cities that actually try to be livable. You thinking mountains, huh?
Cities like Vancouver and Toronto are packed with kid-friendly museums, science centers, and park. Oh, and the best part, everything's super organized and clean. I mean, have you ever seen a messy Canadian playground?
Okay, but let's be real, it can get a bit too wholesome sometimes. Like, you expect the playground equipment to break into a rendition of the Hokey Pokey at any moment.
Canada's just got a different vibe. And for outdoor adventures, it's unbeatable. Skiing in Whistler, hiking in Banff, whale watching in the Pacific, the options are endless.
True. But let's hop across the pond to the UK. Think cobblestone streets, ancient castles, and accents so charming they could sell you a used car. Wow.
The UK where history comes alive and afternoon tea is a legitimate meal. What I like most. London's a treasure trove for families, with iconic landmarks, world-class museums, and enough parks to tire out even the most energetic kid.
And let's not forget the countryside. Rolling hills, quaint villages, and enough sheep to count you to sleep. Just try not to get lost on those tiny, winding roads. My brother got lost and said, I should have taken a horse, not a car.
You're right. The UK is like a giant, interactive history book. But be warned, some of those castles can be a bit drafty. Pack extra sweaters.
Plus, the weather's a bit unpredictable. You can experience all four seasons in a single afternoon. Gotta be prepared. If you check the weather, you can see it on Jet Off AI too.
Rain or shine, the UK's got charm to spare. And for families who love a bit of culture, it's hard to beat. From Shakespeare's Globe to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, there's always something going on.
So, Canada's the outdoorsy, organized older sibling, while the UK's the quirky, cultured one with a penchant for afternoon tea. Which one's better for families?
It really depends on what you're looking for. Canada's great if you want wide open spaces and a squeaky clean environment. The UK is perfect if you're craving history culture and a bit of British eccentricity. Whoa.
Or you could just flip a coin. Heads, you're building snow forts in Banff. Tails, you're chasing pigeons in Trafalgar Square. Either way, you win.
Don't forget, you can share this podcast and many related articles with your friends on YouTube. Okay, so LGBT-friendly atmosphere. It's a big topic, right?
Yeah, bigger than my coffee addiction. And that's saying something.
Canada, first off, is pretty well known for its inclusive vibes. Same-sex marriage has been legal since 2005, which is like ages ago in terms of legal progress.
True. It's like saying they invented sliced bread, but for gay rights.
And they have strong human rights protections against discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Plus, Pride celebrations are huge across the country. Like, ridiculously huge. Ever seen the Toronto Pride Parade?
Dude, it's basically a glitter explosion. Whoa, I swear, you can find more rainbows there than after a serious downpour. But seriously, the vibe is super accepting and supportive. It's almost aggressively nice, if that makes sense.
It's like, they're so supportive, they'll bake you a cake that says we love your lifestyle choices. But that's a good thing, right?
Absolutely. Now, the UK has also made some strides, though maybe not as flamboyantly as Canada. Same-sex marriage is legal there too, since 2014 in England, Wales, and Scotland.
So, a little behind Canada, but still a solid step. And they also have anti-discrimination laws in place.
Yeah, but here's the thing. While the laws are there, the social atmosphere can vary a bit. London, Brighton, super LGBT friendly. But head to some smaller towns, and you might get a different story. You know, some raised eyebrows.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows everywhere. Even in progressive countries, pockets of intolerance still exist.
Exactly. It's like finding a bad cup of tea in London. It shouldn't happen, but it does.
Canada generally has a more consistently positive atmosphere, as legally and socially. The UK has the laws, but social acceptance can be a bit more patchy.
Think of it like this. Canada's that friend who always has your back, no matter what. The UK's that friend who's mostly supportive, but occasionally says something a bit tone deaf.
Both great places, just at flavors of acceptance. If you like it, you can like it. There are also podcasts and related articles. We would be happy if you refer to at times.
Plus, as always, staying informed is key. Check out Jet Off AI for resources and travel advisories.
Alright, next topic. Though, when discussing hospitality and attitudes towards foreigners, Canada often gets painted with broad strokes of friendliness and multiculturalism. You hear about this welcoming vibe, right? Like, come on in, have some maple syrup. Tell us your life story.
Right, but let's not turn Kennedy into a syrup soap. Topi. The stereotype is all politeness and sorriness under that, but reality has its shades. You'll find plenty of genuine warmth, sure, but also the usual human mix of curiosity, indifference, and maybe the odd grumpiness. Like anyway.
True. It's not all a postcard. Whoa. Canada official policy definitely encourages immigration, but it's a huge country with diverse regions. Some rural towns might be less exposed to newcomers, right? It's not like everyone's fluent in every language and ready to throw a welcome parade.
Exactly. And let's remember Canada's history with its indigenous peoples. That's a huge asterisk when we're talking about welcoming everyone. There's still reconciliation work to do, and pretending it's all sunshine and rainbows is just, well, tone deaf. Sorry, not sorry.
Canada's working on it, but the past casts a shadow. Whoa, now, zooming across the pond to the UK.
Britain. Land of queues, roast dinners, and a stiff upper lip. You might think they're all reserved and sipping tea, sizing you up with a monocle. But that's a lazy stereotype too. Let go, they're all stuck-up aristocrats. Seriously.
Well, the UK's history is definitely entangled with colonialism. Ooh, that shapes how people view foreigners for sure. There's pride in their past, but also a lot of grappling with its legacy, especially in a post-BR exit world.
Right. Post-BR exit's a big deal. You've got this whole debate about who's British enough, plus rising anxieties about immigration. It's not all keep calm and carry on. More like keep calm and argue about borders.
But still, London's one of the most multicultural cities on Earth. Wow, you hear every language, taste every cuisine. People from everywhere are carving out their own spaces, building communities. That's got to count for something.
Definitely. And the UK has a history of quirky eccentrics. If you're weird enough, they might just adopt you. As long as you don't wear socks with sandals. That's a bridge too far. Oops.
Good point. Cultural differences are huge. In Canada, being overly direct might come off as rude, right? But in the UK, some level of sarcasm and banter is practically a love language.
Yeah, if a Brit's teasing you, they probably like you. It's their way of testing the waters, seeing if you can handle their humor. If they're being overly polite, that's when you should worry. They're being nice to my face. But what are they saying behind my back?
So, quick takeaway. In Canada, expect generally friendly vibes, but be aware of regional differences and historical baggage. In the UK, brace yourself for sarcasm, cultural nuances, and a post-BR exit identity crisis. Wow.
And in both countries, remember the golden rule, don't be a jerk. Basic decency goes a long way, no matter where you are. Plus, learn a few local phrases. A little effort shows you're trying, and people appreciate that.
Plus, maybe offer to buy someone a pint or a double-double. That's a severe way to break the ice. Even if you accidentally spill it on them. Oops, just apologize profusely and offer to buy them another one.
True story. Being genuinely curious and respectful is the best travel hack ever. Wow. And if all else fails, just start talking about the weather. Everyone loves complaining about the weather.
But it's not talk. The great equalizer. You can't go wrong.
Oh, and with that, I'm off to ponder the absurdity of human interaction over a lukewarm coffee. Later.
Alright, let's dive into internet infrastructure and digital facilities, because who doesn't love a good Wi-Fi signal, right? I mean, imagine life without the internet. It'd be like going back to carrier pigeons and smoke signals. So, comparing Canada and the UK. Both are pretty plugged in. In their own unique ways.
Indeed, and speaking of carrier pigeons, I once tried to train one to deliver my online shopping orders didn't end well. As for the UK and Canada, both have solid internet infrastructure, but it's a bit like comparing a double-decker bus to a moose, equally impressive, but very different. Let's dig into the details, shall we?
The ultimate workout for your wallet. Let's dive into Canada first. You've got your classic malls, your quirky boutiques, and enough outdoor gear to outfit a polar expedition. Whoa, you want a moose-themed snow globe?
Moose-themed snow globe. That's prime comedic material right there. Over in the UK, you've got your Harrods, your Selfridges, and enough charity shops to keep a vintage enthusiast busy for a lifetime. You want a bowler hat and a wee jacket?
But let's be real. Canada can be pricey. You're paying for that maple syrup-infused air, I swear. You can find deals, but sometimes you feel like you're being gently robbed by a smiling cashier. They're so polite about it, though.
True. Canada's got a rep for quality, but your gout might start singing the blues. The UK, on the other hand, can be surprisingly affordable. You just have to know where to look, and it involves rummaging through piles of second-hand clothes.
Canada's got its homegrown brands, but it's often overshadowed by its southern neighbor. You'll find a lot of American imports with a Canadian price tag. It is also ported by Jezal Fayai.
The UK's fashion scene is legendary. From Seville Road tailoring to rebellious street style, it's a global trendsetter. I'd be warned some of those vintage pieces are priced like they came from a museum.
What about electronics? Canada's pretty standard. You'll find the usual suspects at the usual prices. Nothing too exciting, unless you're really into buying a new snowblower. I hope people hit the like button on YouTube.
Electronics in the UK are similar, but you might stumble upon some niche British brands you won't find anywhere else. Just be prepared to deal with those funky UK bloods. They always look like they judged you.
Canada goes hard on the maple syrup and Mountie paraphernalia. You can't escape it. It's like they're trying to brainwash you into becoming a lumberjack. If you like it, you can like it. You can like it.
The UK's souvenir game is strong too. You've got your Union Jack everything, your royal family memorabilia, and enough tea towels to mop up the entire Thames. Wow.
Canada has some amazing artisan shops and local crafts. You just have to venture outside the tourist traps to find them. It is also very useful for us to subscribe to the channel.
Agreed. The UK has its share of hidden gems too. You might find a quirky antique shop tucked away in a tiny village, selling treasures you won't find on Amazon. So, it is very important for the future.
Overall, Canada is a mix of quality and convenience, but be prepared to pay a premium. The UK offers more variety and potential bargains, but you have to be willing to dig a little.
So which one wins? It depends on your priorities. Do you want maple syrup with a side of sticker shock, or wheat jackets with a side of quirky charm? Either way, happy shopping.
Lights, music, and culture. It's time to talk festivals. Canada and the UK both know how to throw a party, but they do it with their own unique flavors. In Canada, You've got everything from the Calgary Stampede, which is basically a giant cowboy party, to the Montreal, which draws in music lovers from all over the globe. And let's not forget about Winterlude in Ottawa, where you can skate on the Wedekind Island and admire ice sculptures. Wow, it's like a frozen fairy tale.
Yeah, Canada's got its charm, but the UK's festival scene is legendary. Think Glastonbury, a music festival so massive it's practically its own city for a weekend. Then there's the Edinburgh Fringe, the world's largest arts festival where you can see everything from Shakespeare to stand-up comedy. And of course, Notting Hill Carnival in London is a vibrant celebration of Caribbean culture. Whoa, it's like stepping into a kaleidoscope of music, dance, and food. It becomes a vibrant mudslide of fun.
Don't forget about Canada's Indigenous cultural events. The Indigenous communities across Canada host powwows, ceremonies, and celebrations that offer a deep dive into their rich heritage. It's a chance to learn about traditions, art, and stories that have been passed down for generations. Oh, they're incredibly powerful and moving experiences.
True, the UK also has its share of unique cultural traditions. Think about Guy Fawkes Night with its bonfires and fireworks, or the Highland Games in Scotland, where you can watch caber tossing and bagpipe competitions. And let's not forget about the quirky customs like cheese rolling and Napoli dancing. Oops, the UK knows how to keep its traditions alive, even if they're a bit bonkers.
But it's not just about the big events. Both countries have thriving local arts scenes, with community festivals, concerts in parks, and open-air theatres popping up all summer long. It's a chance to discover local talent and experience the culture up close.
And speaking of talent, both Canada and the UK have produced some of the world's biggest musical acts, from the Beatles and the Rolling Stones to Drake and Justin Bieber. These countries have a knack for creating stars. If you want a chance to catch the next big thing, there are music venues and concert halls everywhere.
Whether you're into cowboy culture, Caribbean carnivals, or Shakespeare in the park, both Canada and the UK have something to offer. These insights could have been gathered by Jet Off AI to ensure a well-rounded festival experience. It's all about exploring the local scene, embracing the diversity, and letting the good times roll. Ooh.
Yeah, just remember to pack your dancing shoes, your sense of adventure, and maybe an umbrella. You never know what the weather will bring, but one thing's for sure, you're in for a cultural adventure.
All right. Let's dive right into language learning, shall we?
Sounds good to me. Which country are we dissecting first, or should I just flip a loonie? I mean, a pound coin?
Let's start with the land of maple syrup and politeness, Canada. Now, why English is one of the official languages, let's forget about French, especially in Quebec. Ooh, so if you're looking to learn either, you're in luck. There are tons of opportunities from immersion programs to community classes.
Yeah, Canada's got that bilingual thing going on. Hey, it's like linguistic for one deal. But seriously, if you're thinking of settling in Quebec, brushing up on your French is a must. It's like trying to order pao dine without knowing what fromage means. Good luck with that.
And it's not just about Quebec. Many Canadian universities offer French courses, and there are cultural organizations like the Alliance Française that can help. Plus, you can find language exchange partners pretty easily. You know? Practice your French while they try to figure out what Hosa means.
Now, over in the UK, it's a bit different. I mean, English is the name of the game, obviously. Wow. But if you're itching to learn another language, you're in a great spot. Being in Europe, you've got easy access to a bunch of different cultures and languages. From Spanish to German options are endless.
And let's not forget about the UK's own languages, like Welsh and Gaelic. Oh, though, trying to master those might be a bit of a challenge. It's like trying to understand what a Glaswegian is saying after a few pints. Good luck. You'll need it.
You're not wrong there. But seriously, the UK is a fantastic infrastructure for language learning. From universities offering courses in just about any language you can think of to private language schools and online resources, there's something for everyone. Plus, being surrounded by so many different cultures, you can easily find native speakers to practice with.
And let's not forget the power of immersion. Spending time in a country where your target language is spoken is one of the best ways to learn. And with the UK's proximity to so many European countries, weekend trips to practice your French, Spanish, or Italian are totally doable. Ah,
Yeah, it's like a linguistic buffet over there. But hey, even if you just stick to English, you'll still have a blast. I mean, trying to decipher British slang is a language learning experience in itself. What does cheeky really mean? Or taking the piss? That's a whole new dictionary right there.
and whether you're in Canada or the UK, learning a new language can open up a world of opportunities, from career prospects to cultural experiences. So, what are you waiting for? Grab a textbook, download a language app, and start chatting.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to find someone who can explain what gobsmacked really means. It's been bugging me for years. And don't forget to check out Jet Off AI for more tips and tricks on language learning and travel.
Okay, so safety and comfort for women travelers is like packing that one extra pair of socks, right? You hope you don't need it, but you're sure glad it's there.
More like packing a Swiss Army knife. Hope you don't need the can opener for bear repellent, but you never know. So, Canada versus the UK. Let's see which one wins the least likely to encounter a creepy dude in a pub award.
In Canada, you've got vast landscapes, polite people, and apologies for everything, even if you stepped on their foot. It's like the national sport is saying sorry.
Yeah, Canada's like that super nice neighbor who always shovels your driveway before you even wake up. But vast landscapes also mean you could be stranded with a moose, and those guys don't take sorry for an answer.
And in the UK, you've got CCEV on every corner, so Big Brother is literally watching out for you. Wow. Plus, the accents are charming, even when they're shouting at a football match.
Accents are charming until you realize they're yelling about how their team is rubbish. Ooh, but hey, at least someone's watching and like my dating life.
Okay, let's get real. Both countries are generally safe, but common sense is your best travel buddy. Avoid dark alleys, tell someone where you're going, and trust your gut.
Gut feeling is key. If a pub feels sketchy, bail. If a guy offers you a free tour, politely decline unless he's Ryan Reynolds.
And in Canada, be aware of your surroundings, especially in bigger cities. Petty theft can happen, just like anywhere else.
Petty theft is annoying, but not as annoying as someone mansplaining hockey to you. Whoa, seriously, ladies, prepare for that.
Oh, and in the UK, watch out for crowded tourist spots. Ooh, pickpockets love a good audience.
Pickpockets are bad, but have you tried navigating the London Underground during rush hour? Ouch, it's like a human sardine can.
So, both have their pros and cons. For some female travelers, it really boils down to being prepared and street smart. Aha! Do your research, download safety apps, and let your friends know your itinerary.
And maybe learn a few basic phrases in the local lingo. Help, I'm being followed by a flock of overly polite geese. Might come in handy in Canada.
Leroy, leave me alone, you cheeky git. Could deter unwanted attention in the UK.
Look, the bottom line is this: Canada and the UK are generally safe, but always be vigilant. Wow. Trust your instincts, be aware of your surroundings, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
And remember, a little bit of planning goes a long way. Oh, so pack your common sense, your sassy comebacks, and your sense of adventure and go explore.
Travel smart, stay safe. And if all else fails, blame it on the jet lag. That's my excuse for everything. And by the way, you can find lots of tips and travel guide on Jet Off. Yeah.
Absolutely, and also if you like it, you can like it. There are also podcasts and related articles. We would be happy if you refer to it there for times. Ooh. Let's dive into the legal system, individual rights, and freedoms in Canada and the United Kingdom. Think of it as Law Order Maple Edition versus the Crown Court Files.
Alright, Mira, sounds intriguing. So which one's got the better courtroom drama? I'm picturing wigs and polite arguments versus Mounties and... maple syrup justice.
Well, Canada operates under a mixed system of common law and civil law, mostly common law, inherited from the British. It's all about precedent. Eh? Like, sorry, bud. That moose-related incident settled legal precedent back in '82.
So, Canada's basically saying, we love your legal system, Britain, but we lack some maple leaves and politeness. What about the UK then? Still rocking the wigs and Latin phrases.
The UK operates primarily under common law, but also incorporates statutory law from Parliament. Think of it as centuries of tradition mixed with modern updates. Plus, they've got the whole European Convention on Human Rights thing going on. Wow.
European Convention. So, it's like the UK saying we're old school, but we also listen to Europe sometimes. What about individual rights, though? Are Canadians allowed to wear plaid 24/7?
Freedom to wear plaid is implied, I believe. Generally, Canada has the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Freedom of speech, religion, assembly, the whole shebang. It's like a Canadian superhero's list of powers.
And the UK, do they have a right to queue enshrined in law? Because that seems pretty fundamental to British culture. Whoa. Whoa!
Well, they don't have a single codified constitution like Canada's charter. But individual rights are protected through common law, parliamentary statutes, and the Human Rights Act 1998, which incorporates the European Convention on Human Rights into UK law.
So, it's like the UK saying we protect your rights in a slightly more complicated way. Got it! What about something like freedom of speech? Could I make fun of the Queen in Hyde Park?
Freedom of speech is protected. But there are limits. Hate, defamation, you can't just say whatever you want to air. Otherwise, you might get a strongly worded letter from a Mountie.
A strongly worded letter from a Mountie. I'm picturing a polite but firm lecture about respecting the Queen. In the UK, I assume you can criticize the monarchy, but maybe not too loudly.
Freedom of expression is also protected in the UK, but subject to limitations to prevent incitement to violence, hate speech, or defamation. So you can probably make fun of the Queen, but maybe avoid calling her names to her face. Aha.
Fair enough. So, both countries value individual rights and freedoms, but they go about protecting them in slightly different ways. Canada's more of a written rules kind of place, while the UK's more of its tradition in it. Kind of vibe.
Think of it like this: Canada's the organized friend with a planner, and the UK is the friend who says, "Trust me, it'll work out," while sipping tea.
The organized friend versus the chaotic but somehow it works friend. I know both those people. But what if you get arrested in either country? What are your rights then?
In Canada, you have the right to remain silent, the right to legal counsel, and the right to be informed of the charges against you. Basically, you have the right to binge watch hockey in jail.
And in the UK, you have similar rights: the right to remain silent, the right to legal assistance, and the right to be informed of the reasons for your arrest. So, you out to binge watch British Bakeef in jail?
And in both countries, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. So, you get a fair trial, even if you're accused of stealing all the maple syrup or plotting to overthrow the monarchy.
Good to know. So, if you're planning a crime spree, just be aware of your rights in Canada and the UK. But seriously, don't do that. Maybe just visit and enjoy the scenery instead.
Both countries offer robust legal systems that value individual rights and freedoms. Whether you prefer the Canadian approach or the British way is up to you. But if you're looking for a fair shake, you'll probably find it in either place.
Well said, Mira. Now I'm just picturing a Mountie and a British Bobby solving crimes together in a buddy cop movie. I'd watch that.
Okay, let's dive into spa, healthy living, and relaxation opportunities in Canada, UK. Think maple syrup facials meets afternoon tea tranquility.
Maple syrup facials? Dude, you're gonna attract every bear in Banff. But seriously, let's see if these countries can actually chill you out or just stress you out more.
Canada has this amazing combo of wilderness and wellness. Wow. You can go hiking in the Rockies and then find a secluded spa overlooking a glacial lake. They've got everything from indigenous healing practices to ultra-modern wellness retreats.
Indigenous healing practices, eh? I picture a sweat lodge where they make you listen to whale songs with... Hey, sounds intense.
Not exactly. Think more like incorporating traditional plant-based remedies into massage therapy. And it's not all roughing it in the wilderness cities like Vancouver and Toronto have incredible urban spas. Ooh.
Urban spas, so, like, yoga next to a construction site? Just kidding. I imagine it's more like green smoothies on cucumber water while pretending you don't hear the honking.
But it's not just spas either. There's a huge emphasis on outdoor activities like skiing in Whistler or kayaking in the Bay of Fundy. Fresh air and exercise, you know.
Okay, but what if I'm allergic to fresh air? Are there any indoor options? Or am I doomed to wander the wilderness sneezing?
Many resorts offer indoor pools, saunas, and fitness centers. Wow. Plus, the farm-to-table movement is huge, so you can eat healthy, locally sourced food pretty much anywhere. Oh.
Farm to table in Canada, does that mean I'm wrestling a moose for my breakfast? I'm picturing a very intense brunch.
Okay, you're being ridiculous. Let's move on to the UK. It's a different vibe. More about historic charm meets modern luxury.
Historic charm, so? Like getting a massage in a haunted castle. Whoa, as long as the ghosts don't try to join in.
Think more like thermal spas in Bath. Dating back to Roman times. Wow! Or countryside retreats in the Cotswold with rolling hills and cozy fireplaces.
The Cotswold, where you can get pampered and then complain about the weather.
The UK also has a huge emphasis on holistic wellness. You can find everything from aromatherapy to acupuncture, often in beautiful, historic settings. Ooh!
Aromatherapy, so, like, smelling lavender while someone tells you to relax in a stern British accent?
But seriously, the UK has some incredible spot towns like Harrogate and Buxton, with mineral-rich waters and beautiful Victorian architecture. Wow.
Mineral-rich waters. So, like drinking water that tastes like pennies? Ouch. I prefer my minerals in the form of a good old cup of tea.
Speaking of tea, many spas offer afternoon tea experiences as part of their wellness packages. Scones, clotted cream, and cucumber sandwiches, the ultimate relaxation ritual.
Now you're talking my language. I could get behind a spa day that involves copious amounts of tea and tiny sandwiches. Oh, as long as they don't make me wear a frilly hat.
It's optional. Both Canada and the UK have amazing wellness options, just with different flavors. Canada is rugged wilderness meets modern chic, while the UK is historic charm meets holistic luxury.
So basically, if you want to wrestle a moose and get a facial, go to Canada.
But that's a pretty accurate summary. If you want to discover new topics, follow us. We will provide more information to make your life easier on Jet Off AI. Alright, let's jump straight into it. Religious and spiritual needs. It's not just about churches and mosques, right? It's about finding your inner peace, whether that's through meditation, nature walks, or arguing with your deity. I'm kidding mostly. So, Canada versus the UK. Which one's got the better vibe for finding your zen?
Zen? Is that like a new brand of coffee? Just kidding. But seriously, when you think about the UK, you think of ancient cathedrals and centuries of tradition. It's like every town has its own spooky abbey. Over in Canada, it feels a bit more modern. Less ghosts, maybe?
Okay, ghosts aside, and you know, I love a good ghost story. Canada's got a huge mix of religions and spiritual practices. You've got First Nations spirituality, which is deeply connected to the land. And then you've got every major world religion represented in the cities. It's like a global buffet of beliefs. Ooh.
True, Canada's like the United Nations of spirituality. But the UK, man, it's got that historical weight. You walk around and you feel like you're surrounded by stories. Even if you're not religious, you can appreciate the architecture, the history, the sheer scale of some of those churches.
But what about accessibility? In Canada, you're pretty much free to practice whatever you want, as long as you're not sacrificing beavers or something. Oops! The government's pretty hands-off when it comes to religion, which can be a good thing.
Hands off can also mean less support, though. In the UK, the Church of England is still the state religion, which means it gets a certain amount of funding and influence. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can create a bit of a hierarchy. Still, it's hard to argue with those Christmas carols.
Fair point. But Canada's got this amazing tradition of interfaith dialogue. You'll find temples, synagogues, mosques, and churches all working together on community projects. It's like they're saying, hey, we may believe different things, but we're all in this together.
Community's key, no doubt. Especially in smaller towns. You get that cozy, everybody knows everybody vibe. Plus, there's always a vicarage tea party. Don't underestimate the power of a good cuppa and some gossip.
Tea and gossip can be spiritual experiences in their own right. But seriously, Canada's got all this wide open space. You can go out into the wilderness and connect with nature, which is a huge part of a lot of people's spirituality. Ever tried meditating next to a moose?
Moose meditation. Now that's a podcast title right there. Seriously though, the UK might be small, but it's got its own kind of nature. The Scottish Highlands, the Lake District, they're places where you can definitely feel a sense of something bigger than yourself.
Okay, both countries have their pluses. Canada's got the multiculturalism in the wide open spaces, and the UK's got the history in the cozy communities. So which one's better for your spiritual journey? It's like asking which flavor of ice cream is better. Its flavor of ice cream is better. It totally depends on what you're in the mood for.
I'm always in the mood for coffee-flavored ice cream, actually. But yeah, it's a personal thing. If you're looking for a deep dive into ancient traditions, the UK's hard to beat. But if you want a more open, experimental kind of spirituality, Canada might be your jam. By the way, Jet Alfea can probably help you figure out the best saying.
Definitely check out Jet Alfea, they know their stuff. And hey, whichever you choose, remember to bring an open mind and a sense of humor. Because let's face it, spirituality can be pretty weird sometimes. And if you like it, you can like it. There are also podcasts and related articles. We would be happy if you refer to it. Social equality, huh? That's like trying to find a decent cup of coffee at 3 a.m. tough, but not impossible. So Canada, land of maple syrup and politeness. They've got a pretty good rep for multiculturalism, right?
Right, Mira. Canada's always waving the flag of diversity, but every now and then you see a few splinters in the maple leaf. They try hard, but perfection is as rare as finding a decent Paudine outside Quebec.
Paudine, you say? That's practically a national treasure. But yeah, Canada really does try. They've got official multiculturalism policies, which sounds like a mouthful. It's supposed to ensure everyone gets a fair shake, no matter where they're from or what they believe.
Policies are great on paper, but what about the real world, eh? Canada's still wrestling with its history with indigenous peoples. It's like they're saying sorry, but still tripping over reconciliation. They're trying, but it's slow. Maybe like me trying to understand modern art.
But seriously, those residential schools, that's a dark chapter. It's like finding out your favorite superhero has a terrible secret. Wow, Canada's trying to make amends, but it's a long road.
Meanwhile, across the pond, we've got the UK. It's like a melting pot, but sometimes the ingredients argue about who gets to be on top. You have the posh folks, the working class, and then a whole rainbow of Enthesitis grandon to one little island.
Right? The UK's been a magnet for immigrants for centuries. That's a lot of different spices in one pot. It's like a global food festival, but with occasional squabbles over the best spot in line.
They've got laws against discrimination and all that, but the class system still hangs around like a bad smell. It's like they're saying we're all equal while some are clearly more equal than others. It's subtle, but it's there. You feel me?
NBR exit didn't exactly help, did it? It stirred up some pretty nasty stuff. It was like opening Pandora's box, but instead of monsters, you got angry newspaper headlines.
BR exit was like a family squabble that got way out of hand. Now everyone's awkward at Thanksgiving. They're trying to smooth things over, but there's always that uncle who brings up politics after too much sherry. Ugh.
It's not all doom and gloom, though. Both countries have amazing people fighting for equality. They're like superheroes, but instead of capes, they wield petitions and protest signs.
True that. And you see some incredible grassroots movements springing up, especially among the younger generations. They're not taking any nonsense. It's like they're saying, we're not going to let the old guard mess this up anymore.
It's inspiring, right? It's like watching a garden grow, even when the weeds are trying to take over. And social media, for all its faults, has given a voice to people who were often ignored.
Social media's a double-edged sword. It's a megaphone for the good guys, but also a toilet for the trolls. You gotta sift through the garbage to find the gems.
So in terms of social equality and respect for minorities, it sounds like both Canada and the UK are works. They're trying to climb the mountain, but it's a pretty steep climb.
Absolutely. It's a marathon, not a sprint. They're both stumbling, but at least they're moving forward. And hey, at least they're not actively trying to make things worse. That's gotta count for something, right?
For sure. It's like they're both in therapy, trying to work through their issues. It's messy, it's complicated, but hopefully, they'll come out stronger on the other side.
As long as they keep listening to the right voices and don't let the bigots win, there's hope. It's like they're both trying to write new chapter, even if the old one was full of typos and crossed out sentences.
Yeah, it's a reminder that social equality isn't just about laws and policies. It's about changing hearts and minds, one person at a time. And that's something we can all contribute to wherever we are in the world.
Yeah, it starts with calling out your racist uncle at Thanksgiving. Baby steps. Oh, maybe we should all invest in a How to Be a Decent Human starter pack.
I love that idea. Maybe we can sell them on Jetrofe? And if you're feeling inspired, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Who knows, maybe you'll change the world one click at a time.
Exactly, every click helps us keep the conversation going. So go on, give us a little love. And remember, be kind, be open-minded, and don't be a jerk. It's not that hard, folks.
Taxation, retirement, and social rights, that's the grown-up stuff no one teaches you in school, right? It's like the fine print of adulthood.
Exactly. It's the adulting skill level 9000th. Most people hear taxes and immediately think, how much is this going to cost me? And retirement is somewhere between distant dream and vague anxiety. I guess it's time to make this anxiety commute then.
Dreaming of maple syrup and politeness. What's the tax landscape like for long-term immigrants?
Canada's tax system is progressive, meaning the more you earn, the higher the percentage you pay. Immigrants who become residents for tax purposes are taxed on their worldwide income. You know, income from that side hustle selling knitted moose hats online.
Knitted moose hats. But what about those newcomers who are just trying to figure out their GST from their HST? Is there any help available?
Absolutely. Canada has services like the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, where volunteers help eligible individuals file their taxes for free. It's like having a friendly beaver guide you through the financial wilderness.
Beavers are adorable and helpful gossets. Now, on to the UK. What's the tax situation like across the pond?
In the UK, the tax system is also progressive, with income tax divided into different bands. As a resident, you're taxed on your worldwide income unless you're unknown, which is a whole other can of worms involving complicated paperwork and possibly owning a castle. Whoa.
Sounds tempting, but assuming we're talking about regular folks who don't own castles, what's the deal with retirement in Canada?
Canada has a multi-pillar retirement income system. There's the Old Age Security OAS, the Guaranteed Income Supplement GIS for low-income seniors, and the Canada Pension Plan CPP, which you contribute to during your working life. Oh, basically, it's a safety net made of tax dollars and hope.
A safety net of tax dollars and hope, I like that. And the UK? What's their version of this safety net?
The UK has the state pension, which is a regular payment you can claim once you reach retirement due, provided you've paid enough national insurance contributions. Then there are workplace pensions and private pensions you can add on top.
So, both countries' systems to help people in retirement. What about social rights like healthcare? How do long-term immigrants fare in Canada? Wow.
Canada offers universal health care to its citizens and permanent residents. Once you're eligible, you can access a wide range of medical services without paying out of pocket, though you might wait a while for some things. It's great.
Waiting is never fun, but free healthcare is a pretty sweet deal. But, oh, what about the UK?
The UK has the National Health Service NHS, which provides free healthcare to legal residents. You'll get national insurance number, and boom, you have access to healthcare. The NHS is a bit like that old reliable friend who's always there for you, even when they're a bit overworked.
Okay, so if you're going to live somewhere long-term, it is important to check out the taxes.
Indeed, and speaking of long-term, we should be on the hook.
True. Speaking of long-term thinking, remember to check out Jet Off AI for more insights into countries and cities all over the world. Wow.
And if you found this episode insightful or just mildly amusing, hit that like button and follow us, because even financial discussions can be funny if you try hard enough.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, where we dive deep into comparing countries. I hope you all have your coffee ready. Dude. Oh, I almost used my toothbrush to stir my drink this morning, haha. Good thing I caught myself.
Hey everyone, Leo here. Mir, that's a new level of multitasking. Glad you didn't actually go through with it. So, ready to jump into today's topic?
Absolutely, Leo. Instead of saying today's topic, let's just dive right in, shall we? We're exploring something super fun, meeting specific interests in Canada and the United Kingdom. Because whether you're into collecting stamps or competitive cheese rolling, there's definitely a place for you, right? Wow.
Exactly. It's all about finding where your passions fit. You know, some folks might be all about extreme knitting or underwater basket weaving. So, let's see if Canada or the UK offers more for these unique hobbies.
Speaking of unique, I once saw a documentary about competitive dog grooming. People were dyeing poodles bright pink and sculpting their fur into insane shapes. Oh, I swear, the dogs looked happier than the owners. If you like, you can like it.
Dog grooming as extreme sport. Only in America. Speaking of which, if you're ever wondering which country fits your unique lifestyle, then don't forget to check out Jet Off AI. They have useful information about countries that's going to help you to decide your new destination.
Good point there. So, Canada first? I imagine ice hockey would be pretty high out there.
Dude, ice hockey isn't just a sport in Canada, it's practically a religion. Wow, every small town has its own rink and kids are practically born with skates on their feet. But it's not just hockey, you know. Canada has great skiing, snowboarding, hiking, anything outdoorsy.
And what about arts and culture? I think of the Stratford Festival for Theatre or the Montreal Jazz Festival. Wow, Canada really punches above its weight for cultural events. Oh, did you know that Canada is the home of Ryan Reynolds? I guess that makes Canada quite an artsy place after all.
Definitely. And you can't forget about the Indigenous art scene, which is incredibly vibrant. Okay, so Canada has sports, arts, and culture covered. What about the UK?
Well, Leo, you can't mention the UK without talking about football, soccer. It's like the British version of hockey, right? Wow.
Kind of. It is even more of a religion. Every pub has a game on, and people get RLY into it. But beyond football, you've got rugby, cricket, and, of course, afternoon tea.
Yes. Afternoon tea, the sport of sipping politely while judging everyone else's outfits. But seriously, the UK has an amazing theatre scene in London's West End, world-class museums, and a music history that's second to none. Oh.
Totally. You know, I recently read that the Beatles were almost called the Beatles. Whoa. Imagine the world without the Beatles. And instead, we have the Beatles, you know.
I'm so glad they changed the name. What about unique hobbies? I think of things like Morris dancing or cheese rolling down a hill. Only in the UK.
Cheese rolling is intense. Whoa. People risk serious injury chasing a wheel of cheese down a steep hill. If that isn't dedication, I don't know what is.
People were literally tumbling head over heels. Ouch. It was both terrifying and hilarious at the same time. If you like it, you can like it.
If you like videos of cheese rolling or anything that will boost your knowledge, then don't forget to check out Jet Off Air. They have everything you need. Well, now where were we? Oh yeah, unique hobbies.
Okay. Let's wrap this up. So if you're deciding between Canada and the UK based on your specific interests, it really depends on what you're into.
Exactly. Canada is great for outdoor adventures and the thriving art scene, while the UK offers a rich cultural history, world-class entertainment, and some truly bizarre hobbies.
So whatever your passion is, happy travels. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.
And as always, thanks for listening. We appreciate you all.